remember. But I wanted to just continue this little theme longer, because all of us on the show have met countless individuals, not all young people either, who have said that their lives were changed by watching the show, and what they're now doing was massively influenced by their experience of Next Generation. And only today, one young man told me that, well, he kind of hinted that there was one episode that kind of saved his life. And that's deeply gratifying to hear things like that. Thank you. And now shut up. And we're going to go over here, John. Is that,
yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Sir Stewart, I grew up watching, with my parents. I grew up watching Next Generation. I'm a huge fan. And Mr. Lancie, you're still my favorite villain. Just so you know. I had a question for both of you guys. What was your favorite and/or funniest behind-the-scenes moment with the cast of Next Generation for each of you?
Well, funny you should ask that, because I was sent this week a new blooper reel, which they're going to use as part of the launch of the new Blu-ray. The whole series is coming out on Blu-ray. Yes. And I can tell you, I've seen some of it, it looks sensational. It looks as though it was filmed last week. Anyway, they're going to add in all the extras a sort of 10-15 minute blooper reel. And for my money, the funniest thing is still, and always was, the turbo lift doors that don't open. What do you think, Rob?
Actually, we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned the fact that something that I had forgotten where it was in its positioning, that the last episode, the last shot was when we were doing the goo, all that goo stuff, right? One of the things about playing the character that I played is that, I had to have a certain level of naughtiness. I don't know why. But it was late, and it was a late, dark, very, a sound stage that wasn't used very often and what have you. And we were up high, if you remember. They had built a stage up pretty high, and the deal was that we had to bend down, or I had to bend down, and I had to pick up this goo, except it was actually a very good spatially. I remember you on this side, but I'll do it this side. And I had to pick up the goo, and I had to go, you see? But in the process of doing that, to make sure that there was sort of a sense of something else going on and a little bit of a twinkle, there was a guy underneath, one of the guys in the crew, who was holding the bucket of goo on a ladder. And so while I was saying, you see, I was also moving that hand out so that the drips of it were going onto his head. And he, of course, had to be very quiet. And I had this sort of inner secret going on. Which is both a trick in acting and also it was fun. So
everybody's going to go home and put that episode in.
Yes, I know.
And actually, John mentions a member of the crew, and we had pretty much exactly the same crew that night when John and I were together filming the last moments of Next Generation. It didn't happen around the poker table. That was a week or so earlier. And we had the same people who were there on day one of Encounter at Farpoint. And they were an extraordinary group of men. And on this blooper reel, you actually hear Cosmo Genovese reading the off-camera lines. He was our continuity man, our script supervisor, and part of his job was to read the lines of characters who were not there, which of course meant all those aliens on the view screen and so forth. And it was wonderful to hear Cosmo's voice. And in 7 years of filming, Cosmo Genovese, who must have been in his late 50s or 60s and never missed one single day on the set. It was remarkable. They were a great team.
And the bane of every actor like myself who has a hard time remembering his lines, because he would be there at the end of a show, or at the end of the scene going, it was not wasn't, we need to shoot that again. I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You have to pull me? Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. Yes, I am, but I don't, nobody will leave this room because Mr. Lancie is going to stay with you for the next half an hour. And,
Well, that's a hard act to follow, so I hope I'm going to be able to answer some of your questions. What would you like to know? Let me tell you something about some of the things that I've been doing. Some of you know, let me see now, Torchwood, is that Torchwood? Okay, Secret Circle? Okay, not a big show, I guess, yet. I just finished doing a series of concerts. I started in Oberlin, and I went then to Rochester, New York, and hopefully I will come here. I don't know if you know, but I do a lot of work with symphony orchestras. I was here at the Dallas Symphony a number of years ago, and it was on the Sneetches. Dr. Seuss' The Sneetches, if any of you remember it, and a whole new piece has been written on that. What else? Discord. Do you want to hear about that? Well, for those of you who don't know it, and I think it's really important actually that you should, I ended up doing a cartoon show. Called My Little Pony. Didn't know anything about it. I looked at the material, it was really good. Went there, knocked off a couple of them, completely forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 months or 4 months later, I'm inundated. And I go, and people are going, My Little Pony. I go, what? Discord. What? And I started my wife and I said, what are they talking about? She said, well, you did a My Little Pony thing. But okay, yeah. And was my first step into a world that I have become quite fascinated with. And the reason I've become quite fascinated with it is this. It's not My Little Pony, it is Friendship is Magic. And it purports, interestingly enough, a better future. And I went, oh, very interesting. It has a fan base which are the ages of my sons. Very interesting. And as I'm going further into it, I'm beginning to go, I feel like I'm at the beginning of a really important fan base made up of people who are interested in music, who are interested in art, who are interested in doing good and being good in a world which seems to, at least, I don't know about you people, but as far as I'm concerned, has sort of gone crazy in terms of how mean we've all gotten. And so I have I'm delighted, and I feel like I'm at the beginning. When I came into Star Trek, along with Patrick, the Star Trek fan base had already been established. Well, I feel like I'm at the beginning, watching a little bit like that, the Goo, watching the beginning of a new fan base, and I want to invite you who are Trek fans to embrace Friendship is Magic fans, because I discovered that we all have a lot in common. So there. All right, next question. Yes, question. Somebody.
Hi, John. Before you came in and ambushed Patrick, we had discussed earlier his Shakespeare work. And I was curious to know, have you ever done any Shakespeare? I think you'd be fantastic. Have you ever done any Shakespeare before?
The first show I ever did was Shakespeare. And the first show I ever did was when I was 14 years old. I had already managed to flunk out of 2 schools, or put it this way, I was kicked out of 2 schools and flunked a grade. I didn't know how to read. And when I was going to school, back in the Pleistocene, they didn't call it dyslexia or learning disability or, you know, ADD or any of those things. They called it stupid, they called it slow, and they called it mildly retarded. And that was it. That's what you lived with. And I went to a school, the last school that and I was told, if something happens in this school, Johnny, it's military school. And I walked into this school, and there were all the other kids